Alright, so this is our next project. It is going to be Sky's the Limit. It's this very cute hot air balloon, and it's using Radical Rainbow from Hoffman Fabrics. So when I got this collection, it was a little bit of a challenge to figure out what to do with it because every print is super pretty. Like here's the stripe, there was the wood blocks, and then there's these really fun rainbow prints, and then the speckle. But they're all busy except for this one. So it was like, how do we incorporate them into a design that showcases the beautiful rainbow prints, but at the same time isn't so busy it makes your eyes go cross-eyed. So I designed a balloon to use these really bold prints and then use the quieter speckle in between. And then out here in the outer border, I carried the speckle back out to the outer border, and that's where I used the rest of the busy prints so that they balance the center with the background and the prints, but all of the prints are framed so they stand on their own. And then I used the black speckle to do the borders to give your eye a resting spot. In your pattern for Sky's the Limit, we give you a full-size templates, all broken apart and labeled, and then we give you the full-size placement drawing that we can use an applique pressing sheet to assemble our balloon, which I will show you after we get everything traced. So the first thing you need to do is trace all of the shapes onto a fusible web of choice. I'm going to use Heat and Bond Feather Light for this one. I'm also going to be cutting these smaller pieces on the Cricut Maker, and I will show you that as well. But I'm going to show you first how to do it the traditional way, which is the way the pattern is written. This big guy here, he is too big to be cut on the Cricut, so I'm going to show you how to do that one first. Alright, so we're going to be using Heat and Bond Feather Light. And I'm going to show you, this is, the balloon is too wide for the fusible. So what you need to do in that case is cut two pieces, and we're going to tape them. But when you tape them, you're going to tape them out on the edge because you don't want to have to iron over the Scotch tape because the iron will melt it. So let's get these two pieces set up. Okay, and when you buy your fusible, you probably don't buy it by the bolts, you'll buy it by the yard. Make sure they give you a copy of the directions so that when you get home you know how to use your fusible web, because every fusible web is different. The temperature for your iron is different, how long you hold the iron down on it is different. So make sure when you buy it, if you don't buy a whole bolt like we do, that you at least get the directions. So there's a little side tip for that. There we go. You want to make sure everything's nice and flat, and it's easier to fix it here than when you're trying to iron it. So then I use a Sharpie ultra fine point marker. These have a very, very fine point. The line that we're going to draw with it is the same thickness as your scissor blade versus using instead of using the fatter Sharpie markers where you have to kind of guess which side of the line to draw on. For fusible applique like this, it's not as important, but I use it anytime you need to be more accurate, and so therefore I just use it all the time. So why not be accurate if you can? So we're tracing, and a trick I learned in school is always look at where you're headed and not where the pen nib is. So I'm looking out here, and you will actually draw a straighter or smoother line than if you watch the pen nib. Alright. And you'll see I work with something this large. I don't try to draw it all in one shot. I work my way around the shape And then the only thing left is the top, which I'm going to try to lean in here and get this. There's our balloon. So I'm going to take this over and iron it down on the white, and then I will bring it back over here. So when you go to iron this, you want to first iron your fabric and get all of your wrinkles out. So we're going to iron this first. Then we're going to put the piece on the wrong side of the fabric. Most important tip I'll put in the whole video is make sure you put this on the wrong side of the fabric, because if you put it on the right side, you cannot get it off, and you'll just have glue everywhere. It's kind of a mess. So we'll iron our white fabric, then we're going to iron this template on it, and then I'll bring it back over here and we'll get it cut. And we will have our balloon done. So now we've got our fusible ironed onto the wrong side of the fabric, and so we're going to go ahead and get it cut out. And use good sharp scissors for this. I do use my fabric scissors at this point. I know there's a lot of different camps out there about using paper and fabric scissors. I sharpen my scissors often, and I find it easier to get through the fabric using sharper scissors. And you'll see I move the fabric into the scissor, not the scissor into the fabric. And I'm back here. That is our hot air balloon. So that's how you would trace and cut all of the pieces doing the traditional method. We have all our pieces cut for our hot air balloon. I did these on the Cricut, but I think for this, there's so few pieces, it's going to be easier and faster to do it the traditional method, which is how I cut the large balloon. So now we need to assemble our hot air balloon. And in each of our patterns comes a full-size placement drawing. It's on the same page as your templates, and it can be kind of a lot to manipulate. So just fold the drawing to show you the areas you're going to work on, and it makes it much easier to deal with. So first we're going to make the basket here, and we're going to make the bottom of the balloon. So you use an applique pressing sheet. This is an Appli-Fuse mat, and you can see the placement drawing right through the mat. And this is just thread stuck to it. The Appli-Fuse mat is Teflon, so anything that sticks to the mat will peel right off, and anywhere fabric is touching fabric, it'll fuse together. So these are the first two pieces. So how you do it is score the back of your paper with a straight pin. That'll create a crack and peel, so you peel off the paper. Or if in this case it's just peeling right off. And then you lay it on the drawing where you see it. Now there's also like a grip to this, so this isn't going to slide on me, which is quite nice. I like this mat quite a bit. We do have these on our website. I will put a link below for it. So I've got those two together. And then I'm going to take my iron and iron. And anywhere the fabric is touching fabric, it'll stick together. And anywhere it's sticking to the mat, it will just peel right off. And there's our little hot air balloon. So we'll set that aside. Then we've got this piece that goes right here. We have this piece that goes over the top. And then go ahead and iron those two pieces together. Now we're ready to assemble the balloon. And you're not going to be able to see the stripes of the placement drawing, so what you can do is two things. You can use this bottom as a guide, or you can use the ridges on the balloon in the quilt photo to see how these ribs go. So they will fit pretty snugly right at the top, is how I designed it. And then these are going to be covered, so if they extend past, it's okay. Now I'm going to take the paper off of the big guy because it'll lay flatter and more even for me. Just make sure that you don't iron on here directly onto the paper. Make sure there's a pressing mat underneath the areas you're ironing on. So if you pull your paper off and the fusible comes with you, it just means it didn't get enough heat. So go ahead and you just re-iron that. Give it a second, give it a couple of seconds to cool, and then try to take the paper off again. Some of these fusibles, they are at a lower heat, or they only say 2 to 3 seconds, and then I'm like so cautious that I don't give it enough heat. Alright, so this first one follows this ridge right up here. There we go. So you're going to want to make sure it's following this top ridge and it's close to the bottom, because I drew it to be pretty accurate. And just hold it in place with your finger on the skinny end, because it will want to just pop off. And then just press this in place. Okay, now we can go back to our placement drawing. Put this guy on. And put the balloon on the drawing the way the lines are. And you just put this guy on top. Okay. Now we have these lines in the basket, and we're going to put all of this on our background and then trace those lines through. So we're going to take this off. This is our background, and it already has its center line. So here's a trick for you. You take a pen and a ruler and the photo of the quilt, and you mark the center. Now I know what's supposed to be at the center of my image. That's an old drafting trick. Just push this up so we can see the bottom. It's more important that we see the bottom because we need to make sure we have enough room for the basket. So this guy goes up, up, up and away. That's another one of our patterns. It's rotated slightly, and then we put the basket on. But I'm gonna wait to do the basket for just one moment. Step, because we have those lines we can draw. So there's no order to this. This is just how I'm doing it tonight. You saw that kind of popped open. I'm gonna press that down again. Okay, just gonna use a regular pencil today. Fabric pencil would be better. And it goes up into the basket. Some are behind it. And I will just machine embroider these. I will show you guys that step when we get there. I hope you've enjoyed this video, and if you have, make sure you like and subscribe below. You can find the Whimsical Workshop on our website, thewhimsicalworkshop.com, and that has all links to all of our other social media platforms. Thanks for joining us.